So with The Last of Us Season 2 teaser trailer dropping, I think the hype level for this second season is increasing. We're beginning to see some little tastes and tidbits of what is to come. And so I wanted to give you my thoughts, my predictions, my dreams for Season 2 of The Last of Us. I'm going to dive into the things I think they'll do, what we'll see, and what will maybe be different. So with that out of the way, let's dive into these predictions for The Last of Us Season 2. So first of all, I just want to give a giant spoiler warning. I have played the games, loved the games, listened to hundreds of hours of interviews, podcasts, all those different things. And so there will be spoilers in here. If you don't know the story of The Last of Us already, you're going to get spoiled. So just a big warning, there's going to be spoilers. So first off, what do I think is going to happen? I think this season is going to begin in the first episode with Abby's dad's death. I think that'll be a major difference between the game and the TV show, is we are going to see Ellie and Abby crossing over much more often as far as seeing their stories. I also think that first episode is going to be really long. We've heard reports that it is going to be another sort of movie episode like the first episode for season 1 was, where you get around an hour and a half, 2 hours-ish of an episode. And so I think that first episode is really going to dive into Abby's father's death and her motivation as a character, and her uprising as sort of the antagonist to Ellie. And then you are going to see the flashbacks, the falling out, what happens post season 1 with Joel and Ellie, their falling out. And ultimately, I think what will happen and will be beautiful about that episode, because it's a season of TV and I think they want to tell a coherent narrative in one episode, is you're going to begin that episode seeing Abby's father die and what it does to her. And you're going to end that first episode with Joel's death, seeing Ellie's father die and seeing for the rest of the season what that does to her. And I think that's going to set up both of these characters really well, where you are going to be able to experience and see what grief does to a person, and you will be able to see the similarities and differences between both Abby and Ellie. And so with that, I think the theme for this season is going to be grief, that you're going to watch what grief does to people, and you're going to see how it kind of changes both Abby and Ellie. And I think it'll be a really interesting theme that they explore. And along with that, I think we're going to get some new stories and expanded ideas. That they started to do that with season 1. There were some things that were a little bit different, but overall it was pretty similar. I think we're going to have a lot more strayings away for this second season. I think it's going to make the part 2 story work better for TV. And so I think we're going to get a lot bigger of a glimpse into Ellie's PTSD from Joel. All the different things she's dealt with. We kind of got a glimpse of it in the trailer, of her screaming in what looks like to be a hospital, which is either a PTSD flashback dream sequence, something of her being the cure and failing to be that. So we'll understand her motivation for her anger at Joel, or it's us getting to see more of her post-Joel, having them both taken to essentially Jackson's ER, her waking up from being hit on the head, concussed, seeing Joel again and just freaking out, losing her mind. But I think we're really going to see more of that PTSD, the trauma that Ellie deals with from Joel, because it'll help us. We as the players can feel it through playing it. It's different when you're watching TV. You need to see what that character is going through to understand why she's going on this vengeance quest. Along with that, I think we're going to get more Joel. I think we're going to be able to see scenes we didn't see before. We see kind of in the trailer him talking to a woman who's probably either his love interest that got cut from the second game or his therapist or something. I think we're going to get a deeper dive into Joel, have more moments with him than we had, whether it's flashbacks, whether it's getting that more beefed up episode. I think we're going to see more interactions between him and Ellie than we had in the game. I think Pedro's going to pop up regularly in flashbacks or dreams or PTSD moments or whatever, and I'm really interested to see what they do with Joel there. Along with that, I think we're going to get some new characters. We've already seen that there is a new character already introduced in that teaser trailer, and I think we're going to get more of them. I think we're going to get people that we haven't seen before, and they'll give us different glimpses into our characters and who they are and their motivations, and I think they could prepare us for some really interesting stories. Even with that, I think a lot of the characters are going to get expanded parts. I think that Jeffrey Wright's character is going to have way more to do in the TV show than he did in the game, where he appears for like 2 seconds, seems really interesting, and then never appears again. And so I'm looking forward to that. And in addition to that, I think we're going to start to see that Tommy DLC that all of us wanted, that Neil Druckmann said that they were working on, but then they canned in order to fix the crunch issues of The Last of Us and the Naughty Dog studio. And so I'm hoping that we get that DLC there. I assume that we're going to. It doesn't seem like we're going to get a little game, which I would love. I would love if we got a shorter game like a Miles Morales with Tommy and his 3 days and him post Joel and what that was like for him. Probably never going to see the light of day. 100% think it's going to see the light of day here. I think we're going to get a lot more glimpses as to Tommy and what he was doing in Seattle. I think we're actually going to see that a lot more, and how he was dealing with Joel's death post everything. In addition to that, I think this entire season is only going to cover the lead up to Joel's death, the kind of post sorrow of Joel's death, and then the first day in Seattle. I think they're going to stretch out the 3 days to essentially cover all the next 3 seasons. Of course, Neil Druckmann and Craig Mason, who are the showrunners for this, have confirmed that they want to tell part 2 story over 3 seasons. And I really think that this first season is going to deal with the grief, going to deal with the loss of Joel, going to deal with exploring some of those other character moments, and then only diving into that first day. And a lot happens in that first day that if you actually look at both, because if the show's going to go back and forth between Abby and Ellie, which I think they have to for it to work, they can't give you a whole season of Abby. Nobody would care. Because you're not going to keep watching, because it's not like a game where you'll keep playing because the gameplay's fun and you want to see what happens to Ellie. People will just drop off if they do a whole season of just Abby's story. So I think they have to go back and forth. And so much happens in that first day that I think it's enough to cover an entire season. The season's only 7 episodes. I think Joel's death is only going to be that first beefed up episode. I think that second episode will just be the grieving and her and Tommy talking and diving more into that, and the PTSD, with eventually at the end you see Tommy leave. I think that'll be how that episode ends. And so then you only have 5 episodes to cover quite a chunky length of both Abby and Ellie's first day. And so I think that'll be the rest of the season. And then I think the season is going to end where you see how this grief has brought both Abby and Ellie to different places than where they started in the season. Abby started the season feeling that deep amount of grief from losing her father and wanting revenge, going out, getting her revenge, and realizing it doesn't work. And you'll watch her start to open up as a character and realizing that what she thought would happen with the killing of Joel and how she would feel release and relief didn't actually happen, and that she actually needs to start turning towards the light. And you'll see that with the scars and with Yara and Lev. And it'll end kind of with Abby being moved into her grief into becoming essentially a better person. And you're going to start that season with seeing Ellie being the better person, being thrown down into grief through Joel into becoming a dark person, where you're going to end that season thinking, like how you did when you beat one of Abby's friends to death with a pipe. You're sitting there being like, wait a second, is this really what we want to do? This feels a little dark. I think they're going to explore that. We're going to start to see toward the end audiences warming up toward Abby and being like, hey, who she's becoming is actually interesting, and I'm intrigued in this character now, like you did with her first day. And with Ellie, you want to end where the grief has changed her so much, where audiences are asking, hold on a second, I thought Abby was the villain, but maybe Ellie is the villain of this story. And so I think that'll be a really interesting place to end it. I do think these 3 seasons are really going to dive into them as characters and really show the contrast and the similarities between the two. And then I think that season 3 of the show is going to cover days 2 and 3, and it will end with Abby and her kind of splitting off doing the thing. And I think season 4 will cover the time gap, and it will cover the final showdown between Abby and Ellie. So I think that's where we're going to go. But those are my predictions, and so I want to know what you guys think. So head down to the comment section down below and let me know your thoughts. What do you think is going to happen in season 2? Do you think, like me, they're only going to cover really Joel's death and the first day? Do you think they're going to cover more? Do you think we're going to get a whole season of the 3 days of Ellie, and then the next season will be the 3 days of Abby? I really doubt that, but it's possible. What new things do you think that they'll introduce? Do you think the tendril cordyceps thing is going to come into way more play in this season and increase the horror aspect? Do you think they'll bring that back? Let me know in the comment section down below. Like, comment, subscribe, all that junk, and I will see you guys in the next one.